Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, Nice Guy Community. So do you need a lawyer who is maybe able to untangle the business mess without turning it into a bigger one? Good, because today's guest has been doing exactly that since before MySpace was a thing. Matthew Fornaro is a business law attorney serving Broward County since 2003, but not just Broward County, so stay tuned and listen up if you're in a spot other than South Florida. It's okay, but that's where he is located. But since 2003, he's been in Broward County doing his thing, and when things get complicated, contracts blowing up, real estate deals go sideways, partners not playing nice, he's the guy you want to call when you need some clarity and you need some results, not confusion and billable hours. From commercial litigation to intellectual property, landlord-tenant battles, to creditor disputes, Matthew, and Matt, as we want to call him through the rest of the episode today, lives in the trenches where the real business problems happen. And he's not just cleaning up messes, he's helping entrepreneurs set things up right from day one so they don't end up in court later. I'm excited to chat with him. Matt, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Doug, thank you for having me. I'm now older than MySpace.
Do you have any kids, Matt?
Yeah, I have a 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. They don't know what the hell MySpace is.
Got it. All I remember is growing up and every 3 seconds, because my kids are a little older. They're almost 30 and 33, so they were watching the Spice Girls movie. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to see that.
Oh yeah, Spice World. I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Totally. And Barney, the purple dinosaur. I don't know how we got off track so quickly, just like that. So what, when you were in elementary school playing on the swings in fifth or sixth grade, you probably, or maybe you probably said or didn't say, when I grow up, I want to be an attorney. I think law is really where I want to go. Was that your approach, or was this something that found you later in life?
It's interesting because in elementary school, I'll tell you how I got into liking the law or being an attorney is that I would, after school, a lot of days, I would go over my grandparents' condo because my grandparents lived a few miles away from me. So my grandpa used to pick me up from school because my parents worked. Um, and I would watch the People's Court over at my grandparents' house on, I think it was Channel 7 down here, WSVN, like at 4 or 4:30. I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah.
So that kind of instilled in me early on, like my, I don't want to say fascination, but my interest in like legal stuff and dispute resolution and stuff was literally watching the People's Court in elementary school and then middle school. And that's kind of what got me into of like, oh, I find this interesting. I find like dispute resolution interesting. I don't find like criminal law interesting or stuff like that. I find like when people have differences or whatever, or people owe people money or things like that. So that's kind of what got me started into liking the law, and it kind of just blossomed from there.
And then where did you start to learn what your love was for the specialties that you work within? I know you work with entrepreneurs getting their business set up. You help with partnership agreements, and I don't even know if you do anything in the estate planning world, but I know that a lot of the business stuff is the stuff that you really like. Why that?
Sure. So, I've been, as you pointed out with the MySpace thing, I've been an attorney since 2003. So we'll say I'm as old as LimeWire, if you remember that.
Napster.
So yeah, I'm younger than Napster, but I'm old as LimeWire. So when I started out practicing commercial litigation. I eventually worked for two AmLaw 200 law firms, like two pretty big, large law firms representing like big businesses, banks, and like insurance companies. And I did that, and I had the opportunity to go to an even bigger firm and continue what I was doing about 11 years ago. And I kind of came to a decision where, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to be married to like big law the rest of my life? Or do I want to do something different? And this is probably like my last best chance anytime soon in my life to go do it. So I was like, all right, I'll start my own law firm, but what do I want to focus on? And I wanted to focus on like taking my skills or whatever, but bringing them to, I don't want to say the masses, but to a more generalized audience or more receptive audience where I felt that small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups were underserved by big law firms because the people aren't big enough for them, the money's not big enough, whatever,
Right.
or local law firms out here in the suburbs where they're not really attuned to business law. They just kind of do whatever walks in the door or whatever. So that's kind of how I got into my niche and my space. And then also growing up, my dad had his own business and he's a small business owner. I saw the
Right.
issues he dealt with and things like that. So that was always kind of in the back of my head to, focus on helping people like my dad. So that's how I got into my space, and that's what I've been doing for the last 11 years.
Appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story. Let's talk about the nitty gritty, what some of my audience members might be dealing with currently. So, business owners, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, those that have a side hustle are in our audience looking to make it a full-time endeavor. What's something that most entrepreneurs or new business owners are not getting right? What should they know more about when they are putting their entrepreneur pants on one leg at a time?
Sure, people are very eager and excited to get into business as quickly as possible, no matter what it is they're doing. And they don't a lot of the time do the due diligence and the necessary steps before they just dive in and go on their Secretary of State website, register their business organization, and,
Right.
start doing business. So an issue I keep seeing and an issue that's, I don't want to say problematic or whatever, is that people don't do the due diligence. They don't have like a written business plan. They don't meet with professionals ahead of time to figure out what business organization is best for them. They don't pick the right business organization. They don't correctly register the business organization because they don't have governing documents or anything like that. They just go online and do the bare minimum. And then once they're in business, they don't have written contracts, no matter what their business is going forward. And that's probably the most general issue I see with businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs is that they kind of just skip all that stuff because they just want to get into business. And then later on, they have to retroactively go back and do that stuff anyways to fix things or to, if they want to sell their business, if they want to add people to their business, if they want to get rid of people from their business, and they want to do things, they need all that stuff in place anyways. And they have to go back and do it retroactively and from a repair standpoint as opposed to a proactive standpoint. So that's probably your issue that you see the most, or I see the most.
Can you give us, maybe without sharing any names, of course, to protect your clients? Can you share an example of something that has happened in your firm recently? Entrepreneur called you. They had this problem. This was the steps that we took in order to resolve it, and everybody lived happily ever after on the other side.
Sure. I mean, it's just generally what I told you happens on almost a daily basis.
Okay.
People come to me when they're already in business and they leapt before they looked, and now they got to go back and fix stuff because they want to add people to their business, but they don't have any governing documents. They have a problem with who they're in business with and they want to get rid of them
Hmm.
and they can't because they don't have the documents. So now they have to go to whatever the law says, and the law is very harsh and very unforgiving and
Yeah.
very costly. So that happens all the time. They have a problem with a former employee. They never had an employment contract. They never had an employee handbook. They have, other issues with contracts where they didn't have contracts to begin with. They just have a handshake deal and things go sideways. So I see that stuff almost on a daily basis every day. And it's all stuff that's totally, I don't want to say preventable, but totally mitigatable
Hmm.
because it can be not just, some stuff's going to happen anyways, but you can kind of mitigate it by having the stuff in place.
I think it's really interesting. I look back to when we started TurnKey, our production business, and before that, I had an entertainment business that was around for 30 plus years. I've always been self-employed, but I've always also built the plane as I've been flying it. So I don't know that I'm going to get into business. I just happen to stumble into something that's an idea that I like that kind of builds and builds and builds. And then you turn around 6 months later and you say, I probably need to turn that into an LLC, or I need to make that an S corp, or I need to make that a C corp. When it comes to setting up a corporation, is that something that you help people with, making a decision on what type of company that they should have, or should they just be a sole proprietor of their business? Is that the type of advice that you can provide for an entrepreneur?
Yes. However, I don't do it in a vacuum and I don't do it alone. I always want my client to consult with
Of course.
their accountant at a minimum, probably a commercial banker as well, to figure out from an economic standpoint, from a tax standpoint, what business organization or structure is the best for them. Because legally, you can do things a lot of different ways. But if you do something wrong from an accounting standpoint or a tax standpoint, you're going to get killed on your taxes. And it's a lot harder to fix things from that standpoint than it is from a legal standpoint. So when a client comes to me and we want to set up a business organization, I always, say, here's what you can do, but let's see what the accountant has to say. And then we'll take what the accountant has to say, and then we'll figure out what's best, and then we'll go from there.
Like with every business that gets started, oftentimes the entrepreneur starting it, and I'll use me as the example here. If you start the business, you have this certain gift that you have for the world, but you don't know everything about everything. So oftentimes you'll bring in somebody that, like my partner Strickland, he's wonderful. He does great things with systems and processes and admin and support, and he is the systems guy, and I'm totally the relationship build, the big idea guy, and the two of us together. And it probably took us 4 or 5 years of having this business under us before we even had a partnership agreement that we put together. Oftentimes we don't know what we don't know as entrepreneurs. I didn't realize I was going to need a partner or have a partner.
Hmm.
So these are things that we stumble into. And I would assume that with many informal businesses that are put together, that's probably what you're seeing. I know that it is sometimes challenging to undo a problem that somebody created, but can we talk about some of the stages that somebody should be going through when they're first thinking about a business? Like type of corporation, if a corporation that they're going to put together, do they need a partnership agreement? Do they need insurance? Do they need IP protection? Should they be copywriting trademarks or any of that stuff? Where do they even I mean, there's so many things. Where is like a good starting point for the conversation with you with entrepreneurs oftentimes?
Sure. So the answer to all those questions is yes.
Right,
But
right,
the starting point is ideally you want to consult with your attorney, your accountant, your whoever else, banker, whatever business you're into or industry, people in that industry before you start doing anything is obviously the best time to do it.
right.
You don't want to, like you said, build the plane while you're flying it. You want to, make sure the plane's
I
really
screwed
well assembled,
I've
ready to
screwed
go and
that up
everything before we get
every
in there.
time, every single time I have
Yeah.
screwed that up. Fortunately, it hasn't come back to
Yeah.
to bite me, but
So
I can see that it could.
Yeah, so that's ideally the best time is before you start doing anything is when you want to consult with and set everything up and put everything in place and put all the steps in place. So that's a much easier transition, a much easier process than it is to, do it on the fly or learn while you're doing it or whatever. But obviously, sometimes it doesn't happen. And I'll say a lot of times that doesn't happen. And people come to me at various stages in their business or various stages when they want to do things. Then we have to retroactively go back and put things in and fix things, which it's not impossible, but it would have been easier to do to begin with. But we can do it, and we just kind of fortify everything and make sure everything's, in good working order going forward so that we don't have to deal with those issues again.
I think about again the early stages of putting together a business. It's like you want your cast of advisors, you want your board of directors with you, and the team of players that are with you. And you've mentioned several of them a couple of times, and I want to make sure that those in our community are aware. Having an attorney that is able to give you legal advice if you want to make a decision is this something that's good? I was thinking about could I use the Good Humor name, because Good Humor is not around anymore, and then I discovered, well, Good Humor is owned by Unilever, and it's probably not a good idea
No,
to use the Good Humor name
no,
for anything that you're going to do. But there are a number of things that you don't think about. So having this cast of teammates that are with you, that are on your side to professionally advise you, is good. Can we talk about who should be on that team? You mentioned it a couple times, but let's make sure we're really clear about it. An attorney, and who else?
an accountant,
Okay,
a commercial banker,
I love this.
and then depending, those are like the must three, no matter what business you're in, whether it's online, in person, foreign, domestic, whatever. Those are the three must-haves that are should be at every Knights of the Round Table meeting. Um, then it depends on what your industry is, what you're doing, because the rest are pretty industry specific. I mean, if you're doing, online web stuff or whatever, you want to make sure you have like your web SEO guru person or whatever, however they
Right,
define
right,
themselves these
right,
days, you want one of
right.
those. If you're, doing like merchant service processing, whatever, you want a merchant service processor in addition to, maybe if your bank's not doing it, you want like someone like that. You want like a commercial insurance agent, because if you're, you need your insurance, so not just banking, but you need a commercial insurance agent, because no matter what you're doing, you need insurance, liability insurance, errors and omissions insurance, loss of business insurance, all that stuff. So these are all people, and then obviously the rest is all pretty industry specific, but those are all the people who you need, who you should seek out their advice for, who are there to help you, who you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions about.
It's interesting. You mentioned several things in there about insurances and protection and all of that. And nice guy community, keep in mind that those that are in our community that are entrepreneurs, you have a gift, and your gift is whatever it is, whatever skill, whatever talent it is that you're bringing to the table. The stuff that we are all challenged with is we don't know what we don't know. And so it's important for you to grab a hold of a professional team, and you start with your attorney, and maybe your attorney can advise you, look, I think you need to go in and make sure that you have some sort of financing available to you if you need it. Commercial banker, you want to have tax advice so you don't screw up your taxes and make some financial decisions that could throw you into the dumper in your second year of doing it as a sole proprietor, when you could have saved tens of thousands of dollars as an S corp or an LLC. All of those things really important to do. You want to comment on that, or you want me to move on to the next thing? Either way is totally fine.
No, it's fine. I mean, that's what the people are around for, to help you make those decisions so that you can focus on making your business decisions and do your business stuff, so you don't have to worry about legal stuff or tax stuff or banking stuff.
So a lot of times somebody might say, an attorney's job is to find a problem in the situation rather than to resolve the problem. I didn't have any problems coming into this until I talked to Matthew, and now all of a sudden I have all these problems I wasn't aware of. Can you maybe dispel that myth, or help talk us through that? Because, everybody is concerned, of course, when you're new in business, especially if you're bootstrapping the business, you don't have money behind you. You're worried that every cent that you spend on legal or financial or on accounting services is another dollar that you can't put into the business. So happy to have you dispel that, or argue that point.
Sure. So you are putting money into the business by paying for professional services, because the professional services are working on the business. And it's not just a matter of, oh, you came to me, I found a bunch of problems that, or I made up a bunch of problems or whatever. It's like,
Right,
I
right.
was watching like this metaphor. Okay. It's like, why after I saw you did all these things pop up or whatever? Well, it's the same thing of why when you look up in the sky, you didn't see any stars. And now that you have a telescope, all you do is see stars. They were always there. You just have the tool to see it now.
Right,
So
right.
it's the same thing with an attorney or an accountant or whatever. Those were always there. You just didn't see them before. So you are investing in your business. It's not like you're spending money going to the casino or whatever. I mean, it's money that you're putting into your business that when you speak to the accountant, you'll find out that you can write off his professional expenses at the end of the year.
Right.
And it's just a different aspect of working on your business, rather than, oh, well, I bought a website or I paid money for my commercial lease. Well, yeah, that's putting money in your business, but so is I retain an attorney who drafted all my documents, made sure everything's in order or whatever, or I retain an accountant who made sure, like, my payroll or whatever is in order and things like that. So it's all preventative stuff, and it's all stuff that's going to help your business run smoother.
I love you saying, have the telescope. The stars were always there. You just happen to see them now. An attorney is not there to scare the crap out of you. They're there to advise you. Whether you take their advice or not, that's up to you, nice guy community. But it probably is good to at least get set on the right foot rather than be 2 or 3 or 4 years into it. Yes, you can build the plane as you fly to a certain degree, but you also need to have the proper structure in place so that you're not getting screwed on the tail end of building your business and then having somebody take it away from you because you forgot to trademark what you were doing, or maybe you're using somebody's name and you get a cease and desist letter and it's like, holy shit, I didn't realize I was using somebody's name. All of these things are important things for you to need to know when you get started in business. Now, we just talked about all these things that people do wrong. Is there something that you see commonly that people are doing right, or something that you see? I love to catch people in the act of doing something right. What's something right that entrepreneurs are doing when they're reaching out to you?
Sure. For the most part, I mean, people rightly go on to their Secretary of State website and register their business. So, I mean, it's not like they're just kind of like, I'm, Doug Co. Incorporated. Well, did you incorporate? No, I'm just using that name. No, they actually do go online and
Right,
register it.
right,
They may not do it correctly and they may not have all the documents that do it, but at least from a minimum competency standpoint and a minimum, standard standpoint, it's there. So they're pretty good at doing that. A lot of entrepreneurs are pretty good at uh, going to like an online service and getting documents,
right,
made. I don't want to
right.
use any names. You know what I'm talking about. Um, but they're pretty good at that. So it's better than just finding something on the internet or a Google search or
Right.
having like AI create stuff. So they're good at that. It's just, that's essentially where the story ends. And the rest is some people are on the ball and have all the stuff in place and some people don't. And that's about it.
You brought up a valid point. I was going to talk to you a little bit later about technology, but let's do it now. So technology has changed the face of everything, and with AI, ChatGPT, and Anthropic and Claude, and all of the different AI tools that are out there, so many people are going to ChatGPT and just typing in "What do I need?" and taking that advice. And it could be right. It also couldn't be right. What's your thought about how technology is shaping your world?
Sure. So I'm a huge AI fan and proponent. I use AI in my actual practice of law. I use AI in running my business. But, the first thing and the last thing I say about AI is I am in control of it and I take responsibility over it and I quality control, fact check, proof check everything that the AI does. I just don't blindly hit print or hit copy and paste and say, let's see what happens. So, AI is great. It helps. It's phenomenal. It's probably the biggest technology thing possibly ever to
Right.
hit anything because it's just automates and does things that are just crazy that you can't even envision. So the problem is that, you need to keep the quality control in place. You need to trust and verify and make sure what it's doing is correct because it can do the correct thing, but it can also do the incorrect thing. Just
Right.
like,
Right.
20 plus years ago when Google first started or Yahoo or whatever it is you were using, Ask Jeeves back in the day, you
Yeah.
can find you can find the answer. You just don't know if it's the right answer or not. So it's the same thing with AI. It's just a higher version of you're getting an answer. You don't know if it's right or not. And if you vet it and check it and do get the right answer, it's great. But if you get the wrong answer, it could be catastrophic. So I encourage people to use AI. There's lots of great AI for everything regarding business. I mean, everything. And you just have to verify it, make sure it's accurate, make sure it's correct. And, I encourage people to use AI. You just got to make sure that you take ownership over it.
All right. And Matt, finally, what is something that I should be asking you or talking to you about that I haven't asked? I want to make sure I end with our best foot forward. What is something that our community should know about you that we haven't shared with them yet?
Well, you've asked a lot of great questions as far as how to set up your business, how to fix your business going on or whatever. Anyone who has any questions or needs anything or didn't hear what they need to hear or whatever can just check out my website, which is fornarolegal.com. There's a ton of information in there, regardless of where you are located. That's all about business on all my blogs, all my videos, all my social media that answers all of your questions. There's hundreds of things on there now. I just was on there earlier today and I'm like, wow, I sure have a lot of information on there. So it's all pretty much accurate. You don't have to worry about it being like made up crap. And, if that doesn't answer your questions, then you can just feel free to email me or call me or reach out to me on social media. But, it's a great resource. I'm proud of it And it's out there to help the people.
Well, I so appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your expertise on the show today. And if those in our community, you know that we have another Fornaro, Phil Fornaro, and he has got a show called Light Bulb Moments as well. And I think that you got a chance, you're going to do an interview on his podcast too. Is that what you said earlier?
We are with my distant relative Phil Fornaro, where we're gonna finally figure out how. I'm on 23andMe. I don't know if Phil is. I may ask him to join before I appear, so then we can like reveal the results on air. So
Well, it's gonna be a great conversation, I'm sure. Two legal minds talking together, and maybe there is even a podcast in your future too. Phil is probably going to talk you into it because he's been having some major success with his podcast as well. Matt, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our community today.
thank you, Doug. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Matt Fornaro. All of his information, including access to his website, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Friday advice and Tuesday interviews with people far more interesting than they are. Fill up your week with the nice guys. Have fun storming the castle.